So one of the first things that I wanted to talk to you about was the fact that you are experiencing something unique being a college student during the time of the coronavirus. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about. So how did your transition? I know we talked briefly when you were on break before classes actually resumed again. So how was the transition to learning online or having your last half of your junior year spring semester going from in-person to online?
So everybody says like this whole thing is unreal, right? Like, oh, like this can't be real life. Um, and I really felt that coming back because the context of it was right before our spring break. Um, there were there was like a little bit of anxiety, but it wasn't on everybody's mind like it is now. And so we got like there were like whispers and rumors. Oh, my head of college said, "Pack as if we're not coming back." Oh, my dean said, it's probably going to be online classes. Oh, like my professor in this class, like their head of department said, prepare to move learning online. So like no one really knew like what was going on, and of course we couldn't have like foreseen what this actually turned out to be. But just I've had to like I've obviously had a lot of time to reflect, like as most people have, just being at home and not having to do what we normally do on a day to day, and just reflecting as a student. It's just yeah, the only word I can use to describe is like unreal, and like just going through the motions of online class and like trying to find what emotional or mental fortitude to like open your assignment, or I'm sorry, open your laptop, complete an assignment and whatnot. And then there's literally like a global pandemic crisis going on. If you're living in a household with immunocompromised individuals, have expected to like being expected to like fully participate and continue to be like the student you are on campus, it just wasn't like, at least personally in my case, it just wasn't and still isn't like a feasible idea to be expected to be like a full student when literally everything else is on pause. And the last thing I'll say is like my school was fortunate enough to like get universal pass fail pass. And so
What is
like
that?
so basically on our transcripts we won't have like letter grades.
Okay.
It'll either say like pass or fail. And that was large. That was a student organized, student run effort. Just saying like, there's no way I'm going to be able to keep up like my academic obligations at home when I don't have like the campus's libraries, the labs, my professor's office hours and whatnot. But yeah, we got that passed, but like there's still the danger of failing, right? If you don't
Right.
do anything.
Right. Right.
So essentially nothing has really changed, right? Like I'm no longer as pressed to submit it, whatever assignment it is on the due date, but eventually it has to get submitted, right? Um, so, but like I was saying, like my professors have been pretty gracious and like condensing their syllabuses, and like tweaking the assignments and whatnot, because I feel like everybody at this point understands that like what we're experiencing is so new, and like the scary part about it is what is to come is just so unknown.
Right.
So I think everybody's operating with a certain level of grace. Um,
So
yeah.
I think I saw your post about the hashtag no fail Yale. You said it was a student led initiative. Was it a initiative that you all had to fight for? They weren't
It
considering it
was.
before?
It was, and there's still some of our peer institutions like Penn and whatnot. They still don't have a universal pass policy, just because like I don't know. I don't want to like talk your head off because like this.
It's a podcast, so that's what it's for. Talk my head off. I have like 10 other questions for you, so let's get the ball
But
rolling.
this like basically no fail Yale just came, and of course it was a black thing. Like it was black students who said, "Hey, this is something that we need to happen now," and it was black students at the core of the organizing, or whatever. So by the time that like our college council, like our student government, sent out a survey where 70% of students responded saying, "Yes, we need to have like a universal pass policy." By the time that had taken place, um, it was already like I said, a black thing coming from like our black organizations on campus, our Black Cultural Center, and black students in general. But like I was saying before, it just became too clear that like this situation wasn't going anywhere. This whole coronavirus situation wasn't going anywhere, but our school still expected us to like fully participate as students.
Mm-hmm.
And and like also to give more context, like this was happening while spring break was taking place, so like no one was on campus.
Mm-hmm.
And like when it first came about, I think it was split. Like half the students wanted universal pass, the other half was like, no, I want my letter grades. And they
Right.
had valid reasoning. They're like, I'm a pre-med student, and like if I don't get a 4.0 this semester, I won't be able to apply to my med school of my choice. Or I worked hard for 3 semesters to bring my GPA up. Like I don't want the fruits of my labor to go unnoticed by getting the pass. But then the counter argument was just like, okay, but there are people who like are going back home and they have to work to not only provide like money and food and whatever for themselves, but also for their family. And so like, how are you expecting me to be not just a student, and I really don't want this to sound elitist, but like an Ivy League student, like fully participating in this rigorous education with not only without my like resources on campus, like without my libraries, labs, professors' office hours, whatever, but also just like in my home, like without an office or a desk to do something. And then that combined with the fact that like just the anxiety of it being like a pandemic.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, you want me to really be a student now? It just seemed a little bit too, I don't know, it just seemed a little bit too disingenuous and a little bit too like,
Not empathetic at all to
yes,
the mental health. Because
exactly.
I bring that up because I saw a survey. I forget who did it. That said that students are the effects of the pandemic, the health effects of the pandemic are beyond just the physical health effects. That the mental health of students is going to be there are going to be so many issues and mental health issues as a result of what's going on that will that will come, that we will see in the future because of the anxiety that you're talking about, or the fact that basically you're being asked to pretend like everything's okay. You're just moving from Yale to at home, but you're still expected to do papers and your projects and study, and like you said, have the motivation to open your laptop to engage in class. Like that itself like can be like on some days, I'm sure, like that takes all your energy in itself, not in
Yeah.
addition to all the other stuff that you have to do as a college student.
But then like I'm also like I'm from Philly. Like I was raised by 2 black people, 2 working class black people.
Mm-hmm.
So like productivity and like doing what you need to do regardless of the circumstances, that's kind of like innate. And so I was initially really hesitant to fully get behind like universal pass, like just because yeah, I do feel like you should produce no matter what, right? Um, but then you quickly realize like that in itself is an extremely I won't say selfish, but self-centered position. But also it's a position you're able to have because of a certain amount of like privilege.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, like I'm coming, like me myself, I was coming back to a healthy family, a full family, a house where I didn't have to worry about food. So like I could theoretically have the time and the capacity to participate fully in school. But I also go to school with people who, yeah, like if someone got sick in the household, they would have to become the household essentially. Um, and so just realizing that like that there are different circumstances and situations for each student really made the argument, even among students, become so much about class. Just as so much of campus politics boils down to, especially here, just like if you're rich enough and you have the privilege enough to not think about this pandemic, then sure. Like if you have literally, if you just have stable Wi-Fi or a laptop at home, like you're good. But I don't know. I
Yeah,
guess by the time, like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
One would think that students at Yale would be of that class. So it's interesting. I'm not surprised because I have interviewed a student who went to Penn, also an Ivy League student. But in his interview, he was talking about how him moving to Penn was the first time he had his own room, was the first time he had, food on a regular basis. He was a Figley first generation low income student. So I know that there are students who are not, you don't fit the elite profile of students at Yale. So I understand, or I empathize with your being torn at the fact that you feel that you have privilege enough to, be in a healthy family, have Wi-Fi, and have, but you may know friends who may have other burdens that you don't have. But you are all are being asked to do the same thing, regardless of what privileges you have or what privileges you don't have.
And that's the thing. Even in me saying like, I'm blessed with a certain amount of privilege. Like one of my like closer social connections, I guess, his grandfather is a billionaire, right? He just has so much access to like money, power, influence, whatever. But then I also have friends who, yeah, literally have to run across the border, like escaping bullets and things like that, right? And so like the discourse about the Ivy League in particular is that the students are like from a certain stock and like from a certain background. But I've just found like the most incredible, like the most complicated, the most like I don't want to say scarred, but like people have been through a lot. And I think just off of their like just who they are and how they were able to package that and sell that, that's why they're not, I'm saying this to say like not because of like their family had money or because like they paid the school $2 million or they donated the building, but just simply off of the fact that who they are, they were able to get here. And most of those students are like you said, Figley,
first generation low income.
Yeah, I've never heard the acronym called that. I'm gonna start using that.
There's a Figley Center at Penn.
Yeah, we have I think we have a club. Yeah, we have a club, but like even then, there's only a couple of students who fall under that category, and we're all friends. So like, but there was something I was gonna say, but yeah.
Okay. Well, that was one question. So we did spend some time on that. So I did want to talk about some other things about your experience, because I do think, or I have some questions about how the experience at Yale compares to maybe the experience that the students at the university that I work at compares. So, and maybe a lot of other universities. So I know at my university, based on the students that I've talked to and some surveys that I've looked at, most students have never taken an online class. The majority of students have never taken an online class, and the majority of faculty have never taught an online class. So we're in a situation now where we have two novice groups who are experiencing teaching and learning in a new environment under these stressful conditions during a global pandemic. And these are all factors which would think that it would be easier to have a easy pass fail option, but for some reason this is not being taken into consideration. So based on your talking to your friends and your experience at Yale, what is online educate? How is the online teaching and learning at Yale? What is that like? Or what has it been before this? And what was your experience so far? I know you're done with classes, but in your classes, let me ask one question at a time. So what is the history of online teaching and learning at Yale?
I don't think there's really a history outside of like our summer session, which like the certain classes are offered during the summer for you to take. I'm not sure how open they are to non-Yale affiliates, but I know that a good chunk of those are online, but they're made to be online. Like they're essentially like intro courses to either the math major or the economics major or something like that. And they're made to be online. But other than that, yeah, this is other that and like pre-orientation programs, I would say. Like if there's a little course on like alcohol awareness or something like that that you need to take before you step on campus, it'll be offered through like the Yale portal, and you can, you know, look at the lessons or whatnot. But again, those are made to be online. But the thing about this is like none of the classes that any of us are currently enrolled in now are made to be online. And that's where the disconnect and the difficulty comes in, is because we're used to just the environment and the culture of being in, whether you're in a seminar room or you're in the lecture hall or you're in the lab, like you're used to being there, learning, like in person with the professor and whatnot. And so it's difficult to describe to people who aren't like there, like taking the classes or whatnot. But there's definitely like, I think the trademark of this education that I've been fortunate enough to receive is just the person-to-person interaction within class. It doesn't have anything to do with the reading, or it doesn't have anything to do with something that was, you know, said by somebody's textbook or whatever, but just like bouncing ideas off of like your classmates and your professors. That whole culture is lost through the online learning platform. And like, you can't blame online learning for that. Like, you can't blame anyone for that. But I think what we can do is recognize that like so much of our educational experience is based off of, I'm gonna keep saying it too, just having access to the resources that are here. We have like 20 different libraries on campus, more than 15 dining halls, like 10 or so labs, and like they're all open and accessible to all students. And so like just taking that crucial just element of space, like what gets me is that I always, at least always at the end of my semesters.
Can you say that
And
one
what
more
I'll
time?
do, I
You
can
froze for
always,
me. I don't know if it
I'm
froze for the
sorry.
recording. It may be my internet.
I was saying I can count on having 2 12-page papers due at the end of every semester. Like I religiously.
This semester too?
Just, I feel like every semester, outside of my first semester, that doesn't count, but like every semester since I've like committed to my major and knowing I'm doing education, I've had to submit like 2 huge papers. And this semester is no different. But
Wow.
what I'll do is I'll go to this one particular library. It's called Bass. Everybody knows it as like, if you go to Bass, like you're doing work and you're going to be there for a long time. They have like these individual study rooms, like literally little cubbies with like a desk and a light and a chair. It's really creepy. If you stay in there too long, like you feel the type of way. But I'll go there like two days out of like finals week, and just stay there and finish my papers and get them done. But like I literally can't do that, right?
Right.
And like if I don't submit those, like that's pretty much my grade, right? Um, so that's just like one example of how it became really apparent to me, like just how different things were, and like how colleges in general are doing such a bad job of like adjusting and reacting to that. Because you really can't like make that point without being anecdotal. Like there has to be a personal whatever attached to it, and they're like this $30 billion institution is not necessarily looking for stories. Like they're trying to you know pay off the investors or whatever. So like they're looking for the way to like save the brand almost.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
So
it's unfortunate.
how have your classes, your online, like are your professors doing video lecture? Like what are your professors doing differently to try to, you know, keep the brand alive?
So like I still meet with my professors, or I did when I had class. I still met with them every week during our normal time. Um, some professors like either changed meeting times because you also have to realize like there we might have class at 9:25 New Haven time, Easter time, but there are kids in my class from California who have to then wake up at 6:30, 6 o'clock for class, and they haven't done that since high school. So like, excuse me. So like, yeah, there was a disconnect there. But yeah, we're still meeting online. Like I said, the syllabi have been reduced, like the amount of assignments or like the rigor of the assignments has been reduced. I know for some STEM classes, like huge 200, 300 person lectures, the professor just records the lecture and makes it available during the time that you would meet, or they would just upload it for the week. So like the professors are doing a good job of like handling it. So when I say like the university has done a bad job, I think it's just more so the higher ups, like the department heads and the deans and whatnot. I'm not necessarily blaming them. Like everybody is this is the first time everybody's doing it. I just feel like the priority isn't, even though they might say like our priority is like your success and your comfortability as a student, I think the priority more so is like the university's bottom line and like the university's image, which is sad because like it's forcing the professors and the students and whatnot to kind of scramble and pick up the pieces. Um, but again, everybody's doing this for the first time, so you have to kind of operate with some sort of grace, even if you might be a little upset about it.
So how are you going to feel if you have to do fall online?
I told my parents that if my senior fall was online, I would take a gap year, and they weren't happy about that prospect. Um, and I've since rethought it, and like it's just also because it's important to me. I've been following it a lot, whether or not we'll be going back to school in the fall. And there seems to be two schools of thought that like we definitely won't be going back, or we definitely will be going back. Um, obviously, but there's also another alternative to have like the fall semester start in the spring of 2020 or 2021 rather, and then the spring semester be in the summer. It's like essentially be going to school from January to August instead of from August to May. Um, so like I don't know. I really don't know what's gonna happen. Like
Right.
how we're gonna deal with it. If classes are online in the fall, I think the school will like at least professors will go into the semester knowing that their classes will be online, and so they'll probably restructure their classes to be more feasible for online learning. Um, but I would just, yeah, I would, I don't know. I don't want to do this for another semester. Like it was difficult enough already, and also it's my second to last semester as an undergrad at that university. So I'm already missing out on however many weeks and months with like some really incredible people I've met here. So I don't really want to have to miss out on that also. miss out on that again. I'm sorry. Um, Also, yeah, like it's an international university, and so like none of my friends on campus really are from Philly, let alone the East Coast. So there's a time difference. There's a very real distance aspect of it. Um, but yeah, all that to say, I really don't know what's gonna happen or what I would do, how I would react to whatever happens. Um, but yeah.
What were your plans before all this for the summer, and how have they changed?
So this is like the big summer, like you're going into your senior year, like you're supposed to have that internship or you're supposed to make that connection this summer, so that you're not worried about it uh, come this time next year about what you're going to do after school. So I was really, and I probably wasn't as diligent as I should have been. I never am with these summer things. I'm always very last minute. My mom gets on me about it. So I probably wasn't as diligent as I uh, could have been or should have been about sending internship requests and applications and whatnot. I sent in a couple, but I really wanted to be in New York this summer, just doing something there because New Haven is about 2 hours from New York. I've already spent my my summer going into sophomore year. I spent it in Philly. Last summer I went abroad, so I wanted to like be somewhere pretty much on my own, self-sufficient, just to get a taste of what that life was like. Um, Also, you can find really anything to do in New York, essentially. So I felt like it'd be um, cool to look there. But yeah, I'm also thinking about. It sounds bad to say I'm thinking about as a rising senior, but my school doesn't have like a pre-law program. To like go to law school, you usually would do like political science or history or something like that. Um, but obviously my major is African American studies because I just wanted to study what I like. But after school, I do want to um, potentially pursue law school just because like I feel once I graduate, the financial situation, the economic situation of the country is going to be terrible. And I don't necessarily have like um, a piece of paper saying that I have this particular skill as an economics major would or a computer science major would. So there's no real guarantee like that I'd have gainful employment after I leave school. And they always throw around the statistic of like the median salary the of like the average Yale grad, like 1 year after graduating, is like $70,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I I don't know if that could really be me. So just those things kept in mind, like my interest in law and also the economic situation that we're probably going to be in, has led me to really put my foot down and say like, okay, I'm gonna not I'm gonna do law, but I'm gonna look to law school or after I graduate. Um, so I guess not even I guess I know that this is the best time to really prepare for LSAT, to do reading, do this, that, and the third, and I'm becoming more diligent about that. Um, but yeah, this whole, if you haven't guessed, like this whole thing is just shaking up my entire perception of what like things are and what they're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Whether like you speak it or not, I feel you always have like some sense of what is going on, or at least if since we're talking about school and whatnot, um, just the people around me, uh, we all kind of have a sense of what we want to work towards and what we want to do, um, from summer plans to like post grad to what we're interested in and whatnot. So just to have life be put on pause to say like you can't go to school, you can't go to work, you can't travel. It's like what, yeah, like what's next essentially. Um, and I'm trying not to like be scared about it or like fear it because like You have to have faith that like things will work out how they're supposed to work out. Whether it works out how you think it's going to work or not, is going to work out how it's supposed to. So I definitely have faith in that. But yeah, more than ever, I definitely feel like my like agency and my ability to determine what my life is going to be like has been taken away, essentially. And it's nobody's fault but Corona. So
that daggone Rona. Actually, that thought pattern or thought process actually moves me into my next set of questions, because usually I would start the interview talking about, you know, how you became a student at Yale. But one of the first questions that I would like to ask to transition to that point is, usually students have certain expectations about what college is going to be like. I'm sure you had certain expectations about, you know, going to Yale and what that would be like. But as you are experiencing now, as we all are experiencing now, sometimes your expectations of what you think is going to happen is not what's really going to happen. So could you talk about how you came to apply to Yale University and get into Yale University and start going to Yale University, and how your expectations about what was going to happen compared to the reality?
right. So up until like a college tour I took with my cousin, or rather he was driving up the Northeast and took me to see some schools. Um, Up until that point, I had wanted to go to Harvard, um, just off of name recognition, and you know, oh, that's Harvard. That's where I want to go. I want to be the best, do the best. But we got there, and just off the tour, like I hated it. To
What
this
did you
day,
hate
like
about
that's
it? Hated it. Hated
yeah.
it.
It felt so cold and like so unwelcoming. From everything from the tour guides to the campus was just like, I don't necessarily want you to be here. It felt like the school was saying to me, I don't want you to be here. Um, and yeah, it was a real, like, sure, I can now, you know, being a college student and like Harvard being our school's rival, like I can name tangible reasons why I don't like Harvard. But even then, it was just intangible. Just I don't necessarily want to be here, or I don't necessarily want to pursue admittance here anymore.
I want those top 10 later after the interview. I want the top 10 reasons why you don't like Harvard.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, we like towards the end of the trip, we weren't going to visit Yale. Like we were going to pass it over. He was like, "You don't want to visit Yale, right?" I was like, "We might as well just give it a shot. Like look at it." And it was the complete opposite. Like it felt warm, it felt inviting, it felt like familiar, even though like I've never seen, not even never, but like Gothic architecture wasn't a thing, or it's not really a thing in Philly, but like that's all like the campus is. And I was really enamored, like just immediately. And so that became like my number one choice when I was applying to school. I would say it was my zero choice, because like no matter what, if I got in, I was going.
You're just going to
And of
show up
course,
with your bags one day, moving
yeah, it's
day,
just like
whether or not.
and I didn't expect to be able to go, but yeah, they offered me admission, and I thought about it for like a week. They also offered me the most money, and so it was a no brainer with that one. But I'm trying to think back to like 3 years ago, because at this point it was 3 years ago. Being when I was a senior in high school, like looking towards college, what I wanted college to be. I'm like, what were you thinking, Rayshon? Like, what did you think it was gonna be? Like, did you think you were gonna get here to this institution and like, I don't know, fix everything that I thought was wrong about being like my, I don't want to say my existence, but you know, just being me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like being from Philly, being black, you know, going to a public school that I think like just offer proximity to this name and this prestige or whatever. I was gonna fix that or whatever. And looking back on it, like that's just yeah, that's just the complete opposite of who I am. Like I've never been one to like change who I was based off of like where I was and who I was around. And so like my first year, it was a culture shock because even the black, even the black people, the few black people I saw or initially saw, I didn't feel any sort of connection or kinship because like you don't realize how much like class and like location
Mm-hmm.
matters. Like, like my black peers, they usually went to private schools. They usually weren't from cities. They're from the suburbs or whatever. So like I didn't really have a connection to them, and so I found like I call them my people. Just
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, we black people. We went to public schools. We're from Chicago or down south or the West Coast, whatever. And it's only a few of us, and we're all friends. We're all friends. So you know, but yeah, I just couldn't. Before coming here, I couldn't fathom that like the this was the world of the Ivy League, I guess. Um, and it's yeah, it's really alien. Like I keep going back to coming from Philly, going to a public school, whatever. Like I really realized how like of a unique and isolating experience that was. But it was weird because I'm like, that's literally all I know. Like I don't know anything other than this. But coming to a place where like my experience wasn't the majority experience just generally. Like most people had no idea what I was talking about when I said like our textbooks were literally from 20 years ago and they were broken. And like I can point to my dad's name in this textbook.
I saw that post.
Yeah. That's, and like people just like, wait, what? You didn't have like your parents don't own or you don't drive a da da da, like you don't have a vacation home, like you don't whatever. Like that was I don't know. It shook me to my core for a good 2 years. And so like I really realized like at the end of the day, I'm also here um for whatever reason, right? Like at the end of the day, like you might have more like you might have had like a better life or continue to have a better life than me, like materially. But yeah, we're in the same classroom. Like I'm challenging you intellectually. Like we're peers, essentially. And it just made me really proud to be who I was and where I'm from. And I always get uh, accosted. Accosted is strong, but like I always get flack from HBCU students who say like, "Why are you at a PWIs studying African American studies?" Like, why? And then I'm like, at first I'm like defensive. I'm like, why are you at an HBCU studying white history and like political science? Like, it works the same way. But also like, yeah, Yale was named after Elihu Yale, who was a prolific slave trader in the Indian Ocean, and like that's how he got his name and his prestige. And this school before it was called Yale, like actively pursued Elihu Yale to be like an investor. And so now the reason why it's called Yale is because like this man made a this man made his living and made his existence off of slavery, um, and also just like Yale's relationship with New Haven, which is a majority black city. They don't pay taxes. They're the largest employer, but they don't pay taxes. New Haven public school students really can't dream or think about going to Yale just because of like how it's a buzzword, but under resourced or under privileged or whatever the public school system is. And so you like once you start peeling back the layers of like, oh, this residential college, their mascot used to literally be the Pearson slaves. Like, oh, like there wasn't an African American Studies department on campus until like the 70s. Like all of these different things, and you realize like, yeah, actually, why am I here? like like everything about this place is, if not outwardly antagonistic, just antithetical to who I am, like as a person and what I know my life to be. And so like, how can I expect myself to exist like healthily here, like in this space, knowing all of this like history and knowing all of this like the realities of the situation outside of what our school would try to present itself as. And it doesn't take much. Like it doesn't take like a lot of like, you know, research or whatnot to literally see how this institution, and not even this institution, but the Ivy League in general, has just been so like integral at every, I'm not even gonna say every point, but just been so integral throughout the story of this country, but also the world in an extent. But anyway, how like at each point, this institution, these colleges, whatever, have been like actively trying to make the lives of poor people worse. And that's just kind of hard to really grapple with. So that's just that's been my Yale experience in a nutshell. just unpacking and like dealing with historical trauma. But also not really. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I want you to finish. Go ahead.
But also not really. Like, I really enjoy going to school, and this school in particular, because just the people I've met, I've been so crazy, like so unique and so different than anyone I've ever met before. And I was thinking about this the other day, how like not even most, like a large percent, an alarming percent of our admissions each year, like the class is made up of legacies. Just people who like your family have been going here for generations and you have enough money to go here. So it's almost written that my son is going to go to Yale no matter what. And just also just observing the mediocrity of my peers. Because people think, oh, you go to the Ivy League, you're so smart, you're so good. I'm like, no, these people are so, they just have money or they just went to a certain school, right? And then we all know that like, I guess I wouldn't say it's common knowledge, but we kind of know that like colleges have quotas or like a diversity threshold that they're trying to achieve or whatnot. But I noticed that like persons of color, FGLI students or whatever, very rarely is their story like one of I'm a legacy, like I've been here forever, or my family has been here forever, we just have enough money to go here. It's often, and this is especially for FGLI students, it's often like I went through some unspeakable trauma / I had to get over some like seemingly unbearable burdens, unmovable obstacles or whatever to get here. And now I'm here. And like that disparity and like experience and that disparity of how like we all, like we got to the same place, but coming from two very different opposing like paths is always really jarring to me. It's like we have to, and Black parents will say this all the time, you have to do twice as much to get half as much. Or yeah, twice, whatever it is.
Be twice as good to get half as much.
Yeah, twice as good to get half. I didn't really get that until I was here with like these mediocre white kids who just have money, right? And meanwhile, we're trying to dissect, you know, when I say we, I'm talking about the Black people and FGLI students, whatever. We're trying to dissect historical trauma and what it means to be, you know, who I am here. Like, am I participating in this system by being here? Like, am I enacting harm? Like, what am I gaining or whatever? Versus kids who just, like, it's just school to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that always, I don't know, that always makes me think. And even now, it's really difficult to articulate. I know I'm stumbling and going back or whatever.
Nope, you sound
but
perfectly articulate and clear.
But it's just, yeah, it's hard having to like constantly, and when I say constantly, I mean like literally just walking down the street, and I don't know how familiar you are with like the name change movement that happened on our campus in
No.
2015. So they call it the race apocalypse on campus. In 2015, fall 2015, a lot of like individual small events of like racism on campus, whether it be, oh, Black girls aren't allowed in this party, to, don't dress insensitively on Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And then a head of college basically saying, well, no, kids can dress however they want. Like just small little instances, they call them microaggressions, but like
Mm-hmm.
small little things going on to like build up into this one like moment. Like
Mm-hmm.
there were protests, and like school was shut down for a little bit. It was a whole thing.
You were there during that time?
I wasn't. I was
Okay.
still a junior. I learned about it from upperclassmen when I was a first year. But now there's nobody on campus who was actually there
Mm-hmm.
when it was happening. So we'll probably forget about it in a couple of years. But one of the material things to come out of that was we had a residential college, basically a dorm. We call the residential colleges. They're like pretty much like self-sustaining entities. Like they have an academic dean, and they each have a dining hall or whatever. It's really cool. It's like Hogwarts, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But my college used to be called John C. Calhoun College, after one of the most prolific, most impassioned, like pro-slavery advocates in American history, John C. Calhoun. And the place where I was staying, the place where I was sleeping at, was named after him. And I mentioned the movement because like there was a whole project of like, again, student run, Black student run, to say like, why am I having to confront this history, this overt, blatantly like harmful history every single day? Like there's no reason why John C. Calhoun, who didn't even go to Yale, should have a not even a building, but a college where students stay named after him. So now it's been changed to Grace Hopper College. But yeah, there's just so much about the institution itself, like so much just ingrained about it, that essentially tells you like, you Black student are not, like, this wasn't for you. Like
Mm-hmm.
it never really was for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are doing you a favor by allowing
Mm-hmm.
you to come to the school. And it's just an unapologetic, like unashamed monument to whiteness. Like
I've never heard that term before.
Yeah. Just like this is the crystallization of our culture and like our values, and like this is elitism, this is wealth, this is privilege, all kind of solidified into this one entity. And it's kind of difficult to deal with. But yeah.
I have like 2 more pages of questions, but we've already been talking for an hour. So I'm going to pick 3. I'm going to pick 3. I'm going to pick three questions.
Okay.
But I want to ask if you will come back, and we'll try it again and actually do a live with no technical difficulties, so I can ask the rest of my questions and possibly add some more.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Since our plans are canceled for the summer.
Exactly.
All right. So, where should I? Oh my goodness, where can we go from here? Yeah, I want to ask this one. This is the one of 3. So, And if the background would act right, where or when you started Yale, did you have your current major? If not, how did you decide to major in African American studies?
Right. So when I came, I fully expected to double major in political science or economics. There's a lot of educators in my family, and they're all like, "Don't do education. Like, go ahead, get your Ivy League degree, and go ahead and make some money." But I got to school, and I'm a junior now, so I don't really care. So I'm gonna say I got a 25 on my econ midterm, like a 25% out of
Out of
100.
100. Okay.
And that was my first semester. And from that point on, I kind of knew that economics wasn't really for me.
Was
Then
it
with
theory
college,
or math? What was the issue?
it was putting the theory together with the math. Like at this basic level, anybody could go to the store and like understand economics or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it was when you tried to put calculus to like explaining the global phenomena or whatever, I was like, this is for somebody else, not for me. Then I went to political science, and it just wasn't fulfilling because what we were learning didn't really speak to me. Like it would come across as like this is the global perspective, like this is objective or whatever. But it was clear that there was a very real uh, epistemological bias towards the West. And yeah, I just didn't feel seen in that. So then I went to sociology. It was a little better, but again, still really steeped with like old ideas of anthropology and whatever, just like examining cultures and examining people and asking why they are the way they are, and only doing that for some cultures and some people. And so I didn't really like I even within African American studies, like sociology is my concentration. So like I feel the most affinity towards that field. Um, but yeah, African American studies is just like it's one of the reasons why I haven't. One of the reasons why I'll never say like I regret going to Yale. It's because like the people who are writing books on the field are also teaching in my department. Like I have the opportunity to go to their office hours and challenge them and whatnot. Um, Challenge them, ask questions, and you know really gain a perspective. So just like it was a journey, like it was a path, and I
Mm-hmm.
think anybody like most of my peers in AFM will say like, yeah, I tried two or three other things before I became an AFM major. Just because you don't want to be the black kid who's an AFM major, let alone at Yale. Like there are so many, and it's a shame because people feel like it's a cop out. But I talk to my friends who are astrophysics majors, and like we'll discuss like ideas and observations or whatever, and they'll say like, "Damn, I really wish I took the classes that you took, or like was able to like see things in the way that you're able to see things." And that's not even to say anything about me. It's just literally like my major has allowed me to like really ask like fundamental questions about me, about society, about Yale, about blackness, like questions that I've always tried to ask but never had the language or never had the like historical context to ask and work through. Um, and so like I'm glad that I got here to AFM. I also study education, um, combined with AFM, and not because I want to be a teacher or go into the education field, just because like I took one education studies class my first semester of my sophomore year, and yeah, once you realize like there's definitely a difference between studying like the practice of education and like the theory of education.
Mm-hmm.
And what boggles my mind, at least the way it's taught here, is the theory of education. And then that rolled into like all the things that FM is allowing me to think about and consider. Um, yeah, like academics outside of like my people, academics are the reason. Like I said, well, I'll never say like Yale was a waste or I regret going to Yale.
Mm-hmm.
And even like the difficult parts, like, and we were just talking about having to confront histories or whatever. Like even that has like molded me and changed me in a way that I don't think could have happened anywhere else. Um, Not to say that, you know, the education or experience I would have gotten anywhere else would have been like less. It just would have been very different. Um, and I'm just really appreciative of what I've been able to get from here.
I must comment that I've dealt with or have worked with students who have come in undecided about the major or exploring majors, and your path, your explanation of your path to your major is the most well thought out, well reasoned that I've heard. So
Thank you.
good job
Thank
on
you.
that. Yeah, because you're analyzing why this is not going to work, why this is not going to work, what you don't like about this part of the different majors. And I think that many students don't go through that process. Um, some students don't know, you know, what they want to do, and they try it, and maybe they had a hard class, but the reason that they're switching is only because it's hard, not because it's not exactly, you know, you are clearly like searching for something and you found what you were searching for. Whereas other students, you know, weigh other factors like, am I going to make a lot of money? You know, am I going to get a job? But
And I think that's the privilege aspect of it too. Cause like I do go to a $30 billion institution and like, yeah, at the end of the day, I'm gonna graduate with the Luxi Veritas Yale sticker on my certificate. And so I had to get to a point where I was like, and this is talking to people like who are actual adults, like actually with careers and whatnot, not just my professors and and, and my peers, but people who with like real lives and stuff like that. They were like, it really like you should study something workable, um, but don't be miserable doing it.
mm-hmm.
And like it was talking to my parents too, that got me to be comfortable enough to say like, even if directly out of the gate I'm not making $70,000, because I know that I wouldn't survive like in in somebody's office just crunching numbers.
Mm-hmm.
um, and a big thing here obviously is like JP Morgan, Chase, like
Yeah.
Stanley, whatever, consulting and
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That was never me.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted it to be. But going back to what I was trying to say, like I feel like if I was going to a different school, or like if I was, yeah, like most of my high school friends, my core group of high school friends, they all went to Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and none of them study at FAM. They study what they want, but they're also studying, you know, marketing, finance, like stuff like that, physics. Um, it's just sort of, like it's a security and like a cushion that's only because of like the privilege of the Yale name. Um, to say like I probably wouldn't be studying at him. I probably didn't go here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, like if I didn't feel like I could make some sort of livelihood after this, doing what I'm doing now, then I wouldn't. But I do. Um, but yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned several times, actually, all of the resources and the $30 billion that is, I guess, the endowment of Yale.
It is.
Um,
Yeah.
so what? I'll read the question as it's stated. What personal or school supports have helped you to get through all of the challenges that come with the Yale education?
we the most important, the most important building for Yale's Black community, um, since like Yale's Black community has been a thing, has been our cultural center. There are 4 cultural centers on campus, one for the Blacks, one for the Hispanics, one for the Asians, and one for the Native students. Ours is the largest. I think ours is, this might be a bias, but just observationally too, I think ours is the most like administratively robust. Um, and it's down the street from where I live. And so like I can go when I'm feeling overwhelmed by all the whiteness and the history, whatever, I can go to this one space that was built for me, built by like other Black Yale students from the past or whatever. Um, and yeah, just be. But not only that, I can get academic help. If I wanted to start like a club, if I wanted to start the Yale Philly Club, I could go there and get funding. I could host events and whatnot in their spaces. I can do quite literally anything I wanted here. Um, Here as in Yale, but you asked like the most important resource, and I was pointing to that one in particular. I mentioned briefly our residential college system also. Um, so like there, it's like Hogwarts, like the different houses, whatever, but each college has their own head of college. They also have their own, who's in charge of like, the head of college is in charge of like social, the social well-being of the students within their college. So like they'll plan ski trips, or like they'll give you tickets to Broadway, like if they have them, or they'll host like college teas, and like randomly on a Tuesday, I don't know, Anderson Cooper is in your college just like giving a talk because your head of college, said, hey, Anderson Cooper, like you graduated from this college. Do you want to come back and give a talk?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. And then I have each college has a dean who's in charge of like your academic needs. So like if if you're going through something on campus that's preventing you from being the best student you can be, you can go to your dean, and like they're there to like be your advocate essentially. Um, each college has their own office with their own um, staff and whatever. And then on top of that, like you have your major, which has a director of undergraduate studies, who you usually have a one-on-one relationship with. When you're first year, they give you a first year advisor, first year academic advisor who has to sign off on your schedule before you submit it. Also in the first year, people have RAs out of the schools. We call them FROCOs, like frosh counselors, freshman counselors. And they like live in the same building that you live in. And their job is they get paid. I think they get their housing check back plus like $10,000 to just like be there for you. And so like initially that was the thing that drew me into this school, just like the vastness of the amount of resources that you have. Like I said, we have 14 residential colleges. Each of those colleges has a dining hall on top of like the retail dining options that we have on campus. Each college also has their own library, but then there's 4 or 5 big libraries on campus that you can access. The Ivy League, we all share like library resources. So you can tap in and order a book from Dartmouth or Columbia or whatever that your school might not have, and it'll come. Each student is assigned their own personal library.
Librarian? You have your own personal librarian?
Like
Jeez,
there's a librarian who like is
for the
there
12-page paper, for the 2 12-page papers.
Exactly. Like and like these are resources that I've used. I just know of them. I work for the dean's office, consulting student organizations, and so like I have like, it's my job to like know what all is out there for us to tap into, even if you do or not. Like it's there, which always astounds me, because like this doesn't it usually doesn't exist on other campuses.
Yeah,
At least
my
from what I've
eyes are
seen.
like, what?
At least from what I right. And so
Yeah.
it's just like, but also, like I said, most of these kids are really mediocre.
So
And
they
like
need all the
really
help they can get.
not even they need all the help they can get, but like they're going to go so far. Like there's no way you can not succeed here. Like there's something to tap into. But I feel myself sounding preachy.
You're
This is why
fine.
we like I have a lot of friends, FGLI, Black, whatever, who have had to take a semester off or a year off, and they just haven't. Some of them have come back, but a lot of them just haven't.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it's just hard.
Mm-hmm.
But then you think, well, you got your own personal librarian. Like, why is it hard for you? And it's not hard for other people who don't have to deal with like,
Yeah.
you get what I'm trying to say? So
Yeah.
it's just like I'm always astounded by like how much I'm gonna say how much these people like are given and like are allowed to have that we just don't have like access to. Um, not because like they're better than us or because like they're smarter as we're led to believe. Oh, they're smarter. They've earned the spot. They're harder work. No, it's like their dad had enough money to pay for a building. Like the student himself can't read, but he's here with his own personal librarian. He has no choice but to succeed, and like no choice but to go for it. Um, so I don't know. Just yeah, when you go down the list of like things available to us, it's like wow, like that's really cool, but also disheartening knowing that like it doesn't exist at a Howard even or
Mm.
like a Pitt or something like that. And not for any fault of anybody, just these people with money, power, wealth, whatever, said that whatever is available to them. Um, if that makes any sense.
That does. All right. So I'm going to ask, I'm trying to decide between two questions to ask. So I'm going to ask, since you brought up the comparison between, because I also went to a HBCU. I hear your brother's going to Howard. Is
He's
that correct?
HU 24.
Yep. Um, so I asked for personal reasons. Both questions that I was going to ask for were for personal reasons, but I'm going to ask for personal reasons for my job. So I'm teaching a class this summer for incoming freshmen and juniors and seniors in high school. And you can either pose it pretending like you were teaching a class since you are an educator or you've been trained in education, or you can pose it as giving your little brother some advice about starting college. Um, so what advice would you give to a student who's about to go to college so that they can get the most out of their first year? Because I believe you said your first semester didn't count. I don't know if you want to go into why that is or how you could have made it better if you could have gone back. So what advice would you give to your little brother or a student who's starting college?
Honestly, and I I'm gonna say it because you asked me, right? But my advice to incoming freshmen is to not listen to anyone's advice about going into college. Just because, and I said my first semester didn't count because I feel like I listen to people too much. And if you do that, you have an expectation of what it's going to be.
Mm.
But it's a new experience for not only you, but everybody involved, right? Like if someone older giving you advice about college, they went to college however long ago they went to college and things are different.
Mm-hmm.
Or they went to a different school to you and each school is different.
Mm-hmm.
Or even if you get someone who, they're now currently a first year in college and like they're reflecting on the college. They're a first year. Like they don't they have 1 year of experience. They don't know what's going on. So like the one thing I would go back to myself and say, or tell my brother, or really tell anybody is just like go with like an open mind, like open to everything open to yourself, honestly. Like, you're not home anymore. You're not under the direct supervision of your parents. And that's not just a wild out party, whatever. You do literally just learn about yourself. um, Learn about what it is you actually like what you actually want to do, like how you actually feel about certain issues. Um, I've come to disagree with like my family on certain like political issues or whatever. Um, where three, 3 or 4 years ago we would have been on the same accord, but it's just like opening myself to different experiences and different perspectives and different people just kind of open my world in a sense. And that's not to say people who don't get the chance to have this experience or have a smaller worldview. Not to say that at all. It's just a different like perspective. Everyone has something to offer. Um, and if you close yourself off to people, you close yourself off to those offerings or whatever. Um, you limit yourself. But also in that, you kind of have to fall back on who you've always been. Um, People like to get to school and change.
Mm.
They think they're opening their mind and like they think they're trying new things, but they're changing things about themselves to fit in, or to achieve some sort of like vision or experience of college that they think they should have. Um, I'm gonna go out every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday because like that's what you do in school. Or I'm going to hang out with this crowd because they have money, even though we don't have anything in common. I'm gonna just let them say whatever they want about me. I can be the token black friend because they have resources and whatever. So I would say like you have to open yourself up, but you gotta know who you are. Um, you have to know who you are going into it. You gotta know what it is that you hold true about yourself. I want to say the world, but I think worldview has to be challenged through school. And if you aren't challenging your worldview, like coming away from the experience with like really, really like complicated questions about like everything that's going on, I don't think, I wouldn't say it was a waste, but I think it was a lost opportunity just because, no matter what school you go to, it could be a Yale, it could be an HBCU, it can be literally wherever. Like people are coming from different places, different situations, different whatever. And I'm gonna say it again, they have different perspectives and things to offer. Um, and so as much as you can, I think you should tap into that. Some of my best experiences here have just been like talking to people late at night. We had no business being up that late.
Mm-hmm.
Got class in the morning, but like we had a thought and we had an observation and we just went with it for however long we went with it for. And that's just as for me, just as fulfilling. Excuse me, just as fulfilling as going abroad or meeting a celebrity or all the other things you could do at school. So yeah, that'd be my advice.
I think that's great advice. That's the best advice I think I've heard in quite some time.
You flatter me. Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess I will let you go. It is almost 7, and now I have to edit this and put it online so your mom is not mad at me.
It
So
should be all right.
your dad said he would watch the replay, so he won't be mad at me. So thank you again. I'm not going to ask you about the 10 reasons Harvard sucks, but I will ask you next time, so be prepared.
I have it ready for you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and your excellent, well thought out answers to my questions. I usually send questions beforehand, but I didn't want to send it through Facebook because it's like 3 pages long. So off the top of your head, your answers were great. The way you think it's a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
And like I said, I want to do this again so we can do it live and I can ask even more probing questions. Now that I know you even better, I think, and I did tell you that I had some of your blog quotes on here, but I didn't think you wanted me to go into your blog. So we'll leave it at that. For anyone who's interested in his blog, he can ask him about it. He may share it with you. All right. So
Maybe.
thank you again. Yeah, maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you again for your time. You have a good night, and I'll be in touch with you later. So look out, maybe by 8 o'clock, it should be posted up on Facebook.
Great. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.